William Booth was born in Nottingham, England in 1829. At the age of 13, after the death of his father, he was sent to work as an apprentice in a pawnbroker's shop to help support his mother and sisters. As he witnessed people selling their most prized possessions in order to be able to afford life's basic necessities, it made him only too aware of the poverty in which people lived and how they suffered humiliation and degradation because of it. When his apprenticeship was completed, he moved to London, where he continued to work in the pawnbroking trade. While in London, he attended the local Methodist church and later became an itinerant minister. In 1855, he married Catherine Mumford and continued to travel all around the country with her, preaching to all who would listen. Thieves, prostitutes, gamblers, and drunkards were among Booth's first converts to Christianity. He preached a message of hope and salvation to congregations that were desperately poor. Booth encouraged them to reach out to those who were like themselves. They too preached and sang in the streets and gave testimony to the power of God. Well, one day in 1865, having resigned his position as a Methodist minister, some missioners heard him preaching to crowds of people outside the Blind Beggar pub in the East End of London. They were so impressed by his powerful preaching that they asked him to lead a series of meetings in a large tent. These tent meetings became an instant success, and Booth soon realized he had found his destiny. As a result, he formed a new movement, which he called the Christian Mission. Slowly, the Christian Mission began to grow, but the work was hard, and it was met with resistance. Evening meetings held in an old warehouse were often interrupted when stones and fireworks were thrown through the window by people who opposed Booth's message. His wife wrote, "He would stumble home night after night, haggard with fatigue. Often his clothes were torn and bloody bandages swathed his head where a stone had struck." In 1878, the Christian Mission changed its name to the Salvation Army, and Booth took the rank of general. The idea of an army fighting for souls by first providing practical social service caught the imagination of the people, and the Salvation Army began to grow rapidly. Booth said, "I must assert in the most unqualified way that it is primarily and mainly for the sake of saving the soul that I seek the salvation of the body." Meanwhile, Lieutenant Eliza Shirley had left England to join her parents, who had migrated to Philadelphia earlier in search of work. She held the first meeting of the Salvation Army there in 1879, which was received enthusiastically. Eliza wrote to General Booth pleading for reinforcements. Now, after receiving these glowing reports from Philadelphia, Booth decided to send a group to officially start the work in America. On March 10, 1880, this group of 8 officers, led by Commissioner George Scott Railton, arrived at Battery Park in New York City. Much like in Great Britain, they were met with resistance. They were ridiculed, attacked, arrested. Some even gave their lives. Despite this, the Salvation Army began to expand into California, Connecticut, Indiana, Kentucky, Maryland, Massachusetts, Michigan, Missouri, New Jersey, and even Ohio. In 1886, President Grover Cleveland received a delegation of Salvation Army officers at the White House and gave the organization a warm personal endorsement. Today, the Salvation Army is an international movement with over 1 million members, speaking 175 different languages in 115 countries. As we have been reminded of our grand history, may we be infused with a passionate desire to continue the mission of the Salvation Army, to meet human needs in His name without discrimination. May God richly bless you.